Today is Tuesday, May 14th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau from Is Was Brewing, and I'm here with your other co-host, Chris Quinn from the Beer Temple. Chris, how you doing?
Never been better. Never been better.
You have emerged from what they call being in the weeds.
Yeah. Actually, I wasn't even in the weeds. It
That's
was
how
the bartender
that's
who
how
was
in the weeds
weeds.
you were.
Yeah. The help was in the weeds.
Yeah.
I wasn't even supposed to be here, but scheduling and successful events and
Right. Well,
there
we're
you
in the
go.
weeds because this is a very special show.
Yes, that's true.
Maybe our most special show of this week.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
Things are going well with you.
Yeah, things are moving along.
Good.
Of the thing that I haven't told exactly what I've been talking about, but supposedly for the fourth week in a row, we'll close the SBA loan. So,
That's good.
Yeah, 4 weeks in a row is, I think, a record of them saying, we'll have closing papers tomorrow.
Oh, please. You think that's a record?
No, probably not. But supposedly tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we made it through some hurdles. We made it through zoning with the city, and I got the opportunity to pay them $5,000.
Oh.
So
did you say thank you
It was an
when
honor.
you paid it?
I said, may I have another? And they tried to.
Yeah.
They really did. They were trying to get me to say I needed 2 extra licenses that I didn't need. So, yeah,
Moving along
Doing
slowly
great.
but surely.
There's always another week.
it's always another week.
Yeah.
It's always more money to burn now that I'm actually paying rent.
Yeah.
So, let's go.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's not about me.
No, it's not. But it is. I mean, every day. And you're one of the co-hosts.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
a little bit about me.
Yeah. I almost didn't make the show. We could
right.
talk about that in a little
We're
bit.
starting right on time, so we're
Yeah, we're starting right on time. Perfect fade in.
talking a Chris 5 minutes late.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The fade was perfect.
Yeah, the
Fantastic
fade was
surge.
good. I would say it's top 10%.
Of all
It's a
fades.
90th percentile fade.
That's right. It's high.
Yeah. So we have some guests here. The Peanut Gallery is full as well. So it's a classic show.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
Old school Studio B vibes.
Right. So we should get right into it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we should start introducing the guests in the only order that holds any importance to us, which is seniority, by which we mean how many times you've been on this show,
That's
which
correct.
is really the only seniority we care about.
That's right.
So it's easy. It's easy this time. We've got Mr. Jude La Rose.
You got it.
Oh, I got it.
Nailed it.
I nailed it. How
First
are
time
you?
you got my last name right.
Yeah,
This is perfect.
true. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm going to keep it short.
Good to see you. Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
It's a good week.
It is a good week.
Hot and sunny in Chicago. Today
yeah.
was a little chilly.
Yeah. Any beers you've had lately that you've enjoyed?
XPA.
Yeah.
The Firestone Walker half-acre invitational beer today.
Yeah.
Trailing
you had to
West.
say that.
Trailing, the pills. No, it's gnarly.
Brown nose.
How quickly did I go today?
That's the name.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I know.
Kick
yeah.
on.
Yeah. It kicked. But it's okay.
We drank all of it.
Yeah. It was all drank. That's good.
That's how
It's a
good it
thing.
was.
That's how good it was. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on
You're
and
welcome.
helping. We're doing like a little mini triumvirate of hosting, just like last time our next guest was on. So
Right on.
So if he's on again, you'll have to be on.
Sick.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
I was gonna keep it quick.
I'll talk to you in a little
Just
bit.
wanna say, hey,
okay.
stoked to be here. Bye.
Next guest is second time on the show. Very honored to have Mr. Matt Brynildson of Firestone Walker. What's up, Matt? How are you?
Live in Chicago.
Live in yes, that's right.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
it was via Zoom last time, and we were at the Hop Butcher, formerly the Half Acre. tap room last time.
This makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen how this all works.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You have to
This
read.
is a good night too.
Yeah. You have to. It's like Michael Jackson. You have to listen to the words he doesn't say.
You lure your guests in 3 hours before they
Yeah.
go on.
Right.
They drink many, many beers.
Right.
And
Oh,
we drained a keg, basically.
Yeah. You not.
And now
basically.
you want to talk
Not basically.
about some serious stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nah.
Where is my
not
Pale
so.
31, Matt?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here in person. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks to Scott for help hooking it up. He's in the peanut gallery, so Scott from Firestone.
Scott told me he was going to hop on with some super hot takes in the second half. Of the
Scott
show,
was
so-
behind the bar washing glasses, so he is forever on my good list.
Yeah.
So yes.
True
It
Firestone.
wasn't the tickets to
Yeah.
the Invitational. It was washing the glasses while you were in the weeds that really put him on your good list.
I mean, to tell you the truth, it says a lot about a guy who jumps behind a bar and does that in the time.
oh, here
of
come the
need.
hot takes. Let's go.
Oh yeah, we gotta. Oh,
My hands are kind of waterlogged, but they feel good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, right.
Good
They're a
day's
little-
work.
Yeah, right. You know,
Tired hands.
tired hands. Anyway, we'll move on from that. And then, well, thanks for coming on, Matt. And then our final guest, first-time guests, they introduce themselves.
He
That's,
told me earlier, long-time listener, first-time
Oh.
guest.
Yeah, first time, long
And I
time.
was going to rant about the White Sox.
So why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Yeah, aim that thing right at you.
Yeah, you talk into that.
Okay, so this is the microphone.
Close.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can hear it in the headphones.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. You talk right into it. There you go.
Oh, you go right up into it.
Yeah, you
Doesn't
gotta
it
get
sound
right
good
into it.
now when you talk right into it?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Matt Gallagher from Half Acre, and very excited to be on here. Yeah, like you said, long time listener,
Yeah.
first time talker, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, the sort of end of year shows that I've been able to just just turn on Lumpin' Radio and just like hear them, and I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. So,
Yes.
yeah. So anyway, really enjoy the show.
Thanks.
It's been a long time. You guys have been doing the show for a long time, and
It has
yeah.
been a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It has been. Yeah. My gosh.
And it's really cool that you're doing it at the Beer Temple.
Right.
I didn't
know.
realize that it had shifted up here.
Yeah, it did. It was awesome doing it at the radio station, but getting down to
far.
Bridgeport
Yeah.
and back was not ideal for other reasons.
Community of the future, though.
It is the community
The
of the
future is
future.
the apocalypse.
Yes.
I would
that
like
is
to
true.
come back to that, though.
Yeah.
gotta do a
We've
show.
done one show there
Yeah.
since, and we always talk to Edmar about getting back and doing a classic show, followed by midnight runs to get
Cheesy beefs.
cheesy beefs.
And almost fall through the Mars floor.
Yes, almost fall for the Mars floor. Yeah, you gotta. Come on.
I just wanted
You're a
back-
long-time
I
guest.
just wanted background noise.
Yeah. Well, it's usually helpful if the listeners can hear. Usually, not always.
But
But anyway,
We'll put
thanks for being
subtitles on
on.
it.
Yeah. I would also like to just publicly challenge the community of the future being in Bridgeport.
Oh, okay then.
Oh, I know where he's going.
Where do you think it should be?
Epcot Center.
Humboldt.
Well, there's an Epcot Center in Humboldt Park.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think he's got a little.
You hear that, Ed? The gauntlet has been thrown.
Yeah, he has a little like model of the Epcot.
Bridgeport's had its
Oh.
time to prove this, by the way.
Damn. The Bridgeport slander on this episode is,
I know.
is strong. We're getting kicked off the radio.
Well, all I would say is look into the history of that saying, and I think it will forever be in Bridgeport. I don't think you can take it from Bridgeport once you learn
the origins.
the origin of that saying, which I guess will
Unsurprisingly, comes from Edmar.
comes from Edmar, quoted in the New York Times. Quoted in the New York Times.
It's the best
And he
quote.
said, I believe the exact quote is, Bridgeport is the community of the future if the future is the apocalypse. So that's the full quote. But then it gets truncated. And then, like, ComEd opened up a headquarters down there, and they have in big red lights, like, community of the future. So it's like grown without people knowing the
Ruben Kincaid their
entire
landlord?
the entire quote, which ends with, "If the future is
It's
the
the
apocalypse."
That's the best.
Yeah, it's great. It's a wonderful evolution of that. So Matt G, thanks for coming on. But I gotta say, we are known for the vast amount of prep work we do on this show. We actually did prep work this time, and it was all around Matt Brynildson. So what we're gonna try to. Don't take offense if some of these questions might be geared a little bit toward Firestone Walker.
My list just says Brynildson-gotcha questions. Is that the right one?
Yeah. That's
so fucked up.
Click on the link, and
I came all the way to Chicago.
It'll take you.
How is Jim
Exactly.
Seaback so chill all the time?
Yeah.
Is Rob's accent real?
Right. Exactly. All right. So, yeah.
All right.
So that. So let's start out with why the reason for the reason we were so
season.
busy. Yeah. Tonight was we were doing a little release for a collab beer between Half Acre and Firestone, Trailing West. First time you guys have ever collabed?
Yeah.
In the history of the brewery, first collaboration.
No.
No.
Those two
Said these two
breweries
breweries have
collaborating
collaborated, yeah.
together.
Sorry.
Yes.
Long time coming.
Yeah. And what was the reason for the collab, other than you just felt like making a beer together? Specific reason for it? This is such a softball question. It's for a festival, isn't it?
Don't answer the question you asked the guest. Come on.
It was for it's for a
Podcast
festival.
101.
Matt asked, and then we were like, of course, yeah, like no brainer on our part, of course.
But to answer your question, the Invitational Beer Festival is coming up. It's always at the end of May, early part of June. We always have some type of a collaborative beer, but we don't have a formula per se. And Matt and I have been spending a little bit of time working on the Hop Quality Group together, so we see each other in meetings on a little more regular basis and attending these meetings. And I've wanted to make a beer with these guys for a long time. I've been a fan, since the brewery started. I also like to have an excuse to come back to Chicago. So.
Okay, cool. I also want to give a fair warning. I think the listeners already know, the longtime listeners, so Matt Gallagher, you may know. Matt Brynildson may not know, and it might be a little awkward, so I'm just going to let him know. There's a little fanboyism.
I have no idea what you're about
to
say.
We're some fanboys here.
Oh, the Chris Farley effect.
There might be a little of the Chris Farley effect.
Yeah.
Which I think we mentioned last time that you were on the show.
Yeah.
So there might be a little bit like, remember that time you made that beer? It was awesome. So
That one beer?
yeah, that one beer. And then the next question will be about a different
and then
beer.
why'd you take it
Look at him
away?
already.
Yeah,
oh,
you know.
only one beer? So
Let me get to these gotcha questions now.
yeah, exactly. They're moving further up. We were starting with softballs, but they're getting closer and closer. No, well, tell us about the beer, and maybe more than just like going through the beer. Like, why did you pick that beer? And then also, I would like to know like when you guys are collaborating, because you've both done a lot of collaborations with, just generally speaking. What are you guys looking for? Because I would never do, places would ask me to do collaborations, and I always felt like I'm not a brewer. I didn't know what to bring to it. So I'm just curious what you guys are hoping to get out of a collaboration. So take it away, either of you.
Well, I'll just start out with saying that I feel like there's some simpatico between these breweries. I think Half Acre has a portfolio that somewhat is reflective of what we do out in Paso Robles. So, but you tell me, Matt. I mean, the conversation started as like, hey, you guys want to do a collab? And almost instantly, you came up with the malt idea.
It was pretty quick, but you were like, we should do a brewer's beer, I think is the term you used.
Okay.
You're like, this is for the Invitational. It should be a brewer's beer. So that my head instantly went to the malt.
Yeah,
It's
there
like,
you go.
We're gonna do a malt forward, easy drinking beer.
And it's usually hot as hell, in Paso during the Invitational.
Yeah.
What was the malt idea? Just to make a malt forward beer, or because I don't know if it was necessarily malt forward, but malt was definitely present and beautiful in it.
Yeah, I think. Well, we used the Edelweiss malt from Sugar Creek down in Indiana, in Lebanon, Indiana. So
Caleb, what's
Caleb, yeah, I'm sure. Has Caleb been on the podcast before?
No,
Not yet.
I've asked him.
He's on the short
a
list.
couple times.
Yeah,
but
you should.
We'll just show up
busy
one
man.
time.
Yeah, we'll drive to Lebanon.
Yeah, you may have to do it on site.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy.
Not the worst thing in the world. It's a pretty beautiful spot.
Yeah.
So-
He's got an open house coming up soon. It could be an opportunity.
Ooh.
So you used his malt, his Edelweiss malt.
Well,
Yeah, it's a super cool experience for I think all involved. I believe around roughly like 14,000 pounds. Is that about right, Matt?
So my mistake, I'm always a little late to this, so I got a hold of Matt, and we need to do this relatively quickly, and then when we decide to do a lager, that backs it up a little bit more. And I think by the time we got a hold of Caleb and said, hey, we'd like to order 14,000 pounds of malt.
he's like, that's how much I made last year.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. When do you need it? And we're like, how about like 5 or 6 weeks? He pulled off a miracle. It was amazing.
He's the best. And this Edelweiss malt is some malt that he brought back the genetic from Europe that he found that would be conducive to grow in the climate in Indiana, because it's not always the best. It's a little too wet to grow a lot of barley. So he found this one. I don't remember where it's from, but he found it in a seed bank that would have grown robustly in the similar climate. And he brought back like a handful of seeds and has essentially propagated that up, growing a little bit more every year until it became a commercial thing. And it's pretty incredible
Special.
malt. Yeah, very special.
And what does it impart to, well, this beer in particular? So the beer was a Pils, right? Like just like a German Pils, or just I don't know, just a Pils.
We kind of, we're not really attaching labels to this, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
We're
right.
seeing how it goes. It's
Right.
it's complicated, Chris.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I would say a raw materials driven beer that.
Okay. I'm like,
Sounds very happy.
okay, yeah, right.
A raw materials style ale, Chris.
Yeah, got it. All right.
It would be better if you had
Lager, style
If
lager.
Gabriel was here,
Yeah,
he would explain it better.
Okay, got it.
I tried to trick him into coming on too.
No, it's okay.
He wouldn't do it.
No.
But, I
okay.
mean, again, now go back to the breweries and the way we make these beers. Talking about the Pivo angle, it's really hard to put that in a distinct category. I mean, we've kind of come up with this Italian Pils category, but so it's brewed a little bit with that in mind, but trying to keep the hops out of the way of the malt, since we were, a lot of time, effort, and we really want. I knew nothing of this malt coming into it, so we chose Noble hops, Hersbrucker, Hallertau Mittelfrüh, and you tasted the beer. I think it still allows the malt to come through.
Yeah.
For sure. I think definitely a lager, well, like a light lager. But
Pale lager.
Yeah, pale lager. And not one of those like super austere, crisp Pilsners, but not one of those kind of chewy Helles either. I think it was kind of somewhere in between. There was a little bit of I say chew, but there was a little bit of something there in the mouthfeel that the malt lent to it. And then you got kind of a crisp finish to it, but it wasn't anything that was nothing like Pivo or something like that, where they almost have like a, Pivo has so much aromatic, but also from just the bitterness, it's pretty distinct. And I think this was much more subtle and I wouldn't have known it was this, heritage malt brought back. But I did notice, like, oh, it's kind of has this kind of, I don't know, a slight body to it that was nice, and I thought was kind of the focal point of the beer, which
Yeah,
was,
it was
I guess,
awesome.
your intent. So
I can't believe you distilled that down
Into the mic, Jude.
right.
Sorry.
I'm just providing background
Yeah.
vocals over here that you can't hear.
What
Color,
did you
color
say?
commentary.
I just can't believe that you distilled that. That was in a day. You spent a day with that. It was a good recollection of.
No, I had a stange of it before the event, and then that's it. I've had just I
was
had 10
beautiful.
ounces of it, but it was good.
That was a great description.
Okay, thanks, thanks, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
He's a pro.
Here's Chris
Yeah.
Farling now.
Right. So to the second part of the question, like when you guys collaborate, what are you? I mean, outside of just this one time, or maybe this would be a good example, but what are you hoping to get when you're collaborating? And let's just imagine one where you're like excited about it, not one of the ones like you feel like, yeah, well, I guess I owe it to him. Like if I were to ask for a collab,
not like this one.
right?
Made
Yeah,
a promise
exactly.
after too many beers.
Right,
and here we are.
exactly.
What are we gonna do?
Right.
I think from my perspective, because we've been doing this for a while, and the new program for me is much like what happened on this. It's just to open it up, and this was a perfect example, like that malt, right? And I got to learn something. Of course, we did our very first decoction on this beer, so
Cool.
we kind of stretched a little bit. The brew team got to see something completely different. And the new thing for me is when we do a collaboration, I want a kind of a blank sheet, and I want the brewery that's coming our way to provide as much of the vibe, because once you bring it into the brewery is going to have a lot of influence on what happens there. So if someone can bring something in that you've never done before, or completely different way of looking at it, new raw material in this case, yeah, it's perfect. And everybody learns something.
How about you?
Yeah, just to echo Matt, yeah, it's like, a really good collab is like, this sounds weird, but, like built on trust. It's like, obviously,
It's not weird.
I have a lot of trust in Matt
Okay.
and his brew team. Oh my God, we could have a whole hour conversation about how amazing the crew is at Firestone Walker. We were
got
so
about an hour
so
left,
impressed. Top to bottom.
Don't
just-
worry, the
just
show will
incredible.
devolve quickly into something adjacent to that.
But yeah, you really strive to have, like, obviously contributions from both sides of the collab.
Yeah.
So I felt like, well, I'm not going to teach these guys anything about process. Like they've got that down. So I was like, well, I do have this little ace in my back pocket with this malt. So I was like, oh, let me pull this out. But yeah, it's it was just so easy between texts and phone calls, and it was just just one of those collabs where it's just, to me, is the best collabs are always easy because they're just natural. And well, I shouldn't say that, because you could also have the other angle of like where there's Discord, because like a lot of great art comes from Discord. So I can see collabs coming where it's just like people are just like, no, like, I don't think you should do that. You're like fighting over it, but you end up with something amazing because like someone like dug their heels in. It was like, you have to do this. Like, we've never done that before.
Are you referring to doing a barrel project with Marty? I mean, where are we going here?
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe like some kind of Turmoil era's Beatles album or something, Fleetwood Mac, something like that.
Sure. So the rumors of beer
The rumors,
collabs.
right?
The rumors.
Exactly.
Can I say one quick thing?
Please, Jude.
So I think Matt Gallagher just hit on it, which is when I saw the collab come through Instagram, I was like, oh, this just makes sense, right? And like that's when it's most perfect. Firestone Walker and Half Acre and Hop Butcher, they've always been so influential. They speak very similarly. They talk about their beers and their way of being very similarly. So when I saw this come through and I saw the artwork, to your guys' point, that is when collab is at its best. So you saw the colors, you saw the art, You saw the description, and you said, "Shh."
Didn't seem forced, seemed natural, and you're like, I want to try it.
I was just like, can't wait. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is the true art of collab. And I can't think of two better brewers to come together. Matt, you said simpatico, 100%.
All right. Well, there we go.
That was the gotcha questions.
That was the gotcha question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all over with.
So I do want to. I'm dying to talk about XPA. Can we just jump right into it, or is it too soon?
No,
Mike.
go
Okay.
for it.
Okay.
Remember when
So
you made
that's
XPA?
we're drinking that. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
I've said. I think I've gone on the record and said that it's the best new pale ale in memory that I've had. So one, thanks for making it. It's really good. Two, I'd love to learn a little bit more about this beer specifically, and then two, like, why did you feel a 5%? Also, it's 5 and 5.3. I'm just going to put that out there, depending on where you look. If you look on a can, if you look on a keg collar. So we don't know what the but it's close.
Sounds like we fucked up.
Yeah, somebody did somewhere. But like, why in like did you guys feel like I don't know, this type of almost old school hopped up pale ale is what the market needed? I'm very interested in why you felt that, because was so happy to have that come out, because honestly, aside from Half Acre, I mean, you guys are longtime pale ale lovers. It's not exactly the style that's given the most love. So I'm just curious about the origins of the beer, and again, thanks for making it. So, yeah.
It's very cool of you.
Well, I always felt pale ale is in the wheelhouse for Firestone Walker. We did, our very first beer is DBA, which is actually an English pale ale.
Yeah.
Right? Amber ale now, but we call it an English pale ale by style. And then Pale 31 came shortly thereafter.
I love.
And we got a lot of mileage out of that beer. Both in terms of sales, but also awards, and and that kind of leads to getting networking within the community of beer. But it kind of ran its course. I feel like that beer could still be here, but we chose to sideline it for a while, and we really focused on IPAs, and not just IPAs, but hazy IPAs, and it went all over the place, right? But I feel like it's a kind of time for pale ale again. And what is a pale ale? It's just a lower IBU, or lower alcohol IPA in many ways, if you look at it. So I've been chomping at the bit to do it. But honestly, our production director, Ollie Razi, was the one who really took the reins on this beer, did the pilot brews with Sam Tierney down at Venice, and worked out the hop bill. We had spent a little bit of time in the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, and XBA is kind of the thing. Low alcohol, hoppy IPAs.
Called XPA?
And they call it XPA, yeah.
Like
Interesting.
tuna.
Yep. So after a couple trips down there, it's like you always come home and you're like, we got to make one of these. And then you talk to your team back at the brewery, and they're like, yeah, we're going to sell it. Low alcohol, hoppy beer, sure, great. But we finally committed to it. And so in many ways, it is kind of the new Pale 31 for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it seems like. It seems like, I don't want to say updated, but just like a modern iteration on a classic pale ale, like a Pale 31, which I always felt seemed like iterative of Sierra Nevada Pale, and then I think this is just kind of iterative of that. Yeah. Which is amazing. And I don't know.
You guys have always been doing kind of lower ABV pale ales, or for a while you had the Easy Jack. There was always something that was, 5 or under, around 5.3 and under.
Yep.
Driven by hops.
Easy Jack was our best beer in terms of export.
Yeah. Export to out of the
UK,
country.
Sweden, and places where
It's like 4.7 or something.
yeah, the lower the alcohol, the lower the tax rate, the
Gotcha.
the kind of like nestle into a good price point. But no, we've been spending time in the southern hemisphere looking at hops. I guess if you're going to be true to the XPA style in Australia, it should have Australian hops like Galaxy or Vic Secret. But we've spent enough time in New Zealand, really fallen in love with Nelson. It just seems so perfect in this beer, and in some ways looking for an excuse to really build a beer around that hop. But anyway, I only take partial credit. Ollie Rozzi and Sam Tierney really went to town building this beer and kind of practicing it on the test kit. And then we bring it back up to Paso, and we're already pretty well tooled to make pale ale. So, like I said, it's in our wheelhouse. We released it as a seasonal, so it's going to go away for a while.
Okay.
And then
That
hopefully,
was my follow-up question.
but hopefully it comes back as.
So we should stockpile it and save it throughout all the winter.
So you're done
These
brewing
beers
it?
don't have
Are you still
good
have
shelf
any
life.
more brews?
No, I was joking.
Or
Yeah, there's a couple more brews coming through, but it's really our
Sweet.
spring, early summer seasonal, and then we'll start brewing O-Fest and getting into other things. But
Got
hopefully
it.
in 25, there's no decisions have been made, but I would love to see this beer go as a year-round.
I haven't seen people kind of but the discovery process for this beer that has then led into positive comments about it. That's like what I always like look for is like if they come in already wanting to try a beer, that's fine and that's awesome. They're excited about it. They've heard about it. But when they are completely blind to it and then they try it and are blown away, and I will just say people are just, time and again, industry, non-industry, are just hammering this
It
beer.
reminds me a lot of, and this is, I don't know, of when Pivo hit here. Very
Yeah, it
similar,
does.
like kind of vibe of like, it can taste like this. This is like, let's have two more of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it makes me feel good if we can make a beer in California, it travels to Chicago, and people still have that reaction.
Oh, yeah.
I would expect it more to happen at home, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of great. You got Daisy Cutter in your backyard, so
Yeah.
there's plenty of good hoppy pale ale
Sure.
on the West Coast side of it and on the hazy side of it. I mean, Jude's sitting right here too, so there's a lot of really fresh hoppy beer in the hood here. So
Right.
Yeah.
I was looking ahead or I was looking back at the beers in advance of this. Is this raw pale, raw churro, or is it raw churro?
Yep.
It's got a great malt character. When the hop quality of it reminds me of Half Acres Vallejo.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
even,
yeah.
but it's even more lean. And I think what's dope about it is you're hit with that initial kind of cool climate, New Zealand, kind of like wine. I still haven't had a gooseberry, but just kind of this
Yeah.
tropical, cool Sauvignon feel. But for as small of a beer as it is, and in terms of ABV, you still got good malt character.
Yeah.
And that's that's a raw churro. It's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great sign of any hoppy beer is. I think we've swung so much to one pendulum, which I'm a fan of, but equally a fan of, especially as you start to like dive into like what more and more as malt character becomes apparent from all of our suppliers. I think we gain a deeper appreciation. So if this is that malt character is on point. It provides just enough malt sweetness, and it's what really makes. Sorry, I'm going to go on about Vallejo. I was talking to Gabriel earlier. I was like, there's something about the Half Acre malt character that comes through in all their hoppy beers, and I feel that's what makes Vallejo Vallejo. It's dope that in XPA that you got just enough sweetness to kind of balance out all that really cool kind of like gooey wine character from Nelson. It's dope.
The malt whisperer over here.
Yeah, right? That's why we have...
I'm here in the peanut gallery all day.
Whisper in
yeah,
chief.
right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's a question that I want to modify because I think it works for both of you. And I would love to hear your answers. Is there any beer? So both you guys have had a bunch of beers that are, I think, had like loyal followings that just for whatever reason had to go away. The decision was made to go away. Were there any, regardless of what the kind of fandom around it was, just your personal fandom, were there any beers that that you not regret because they had to happen, but like, are there any ones that like you miss? Yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
Miss. Are there any beers, past Half Acre beers, Gallagher, that you especially miss or like to reminisce about?
That's a great question, and of course, but we've been able to kind of like just bring it back once a year, So we still and to me that scratches the itch in a really good way. It's like gone away. It's like we still make it once a year. Space will make it once a year. I'm mostly stoked about Vallejo that it's not Vallejo just like has come roaring back, and it's like we continue to extend the sort of availability of Vallejo, because to me that's one of the most like encapsulating the feeling of Half Acre is like in that beer, between the artwork and the beer, and it's got, to me it's got a lot of soul to it. But no, it's tough. As a brewer, I think all of us know it's like you're always bummed. You're like, I love this beer. But it's like no one's buying it, and then you're like super encouraged when people are like, oh, you're not gonna make it anymore. We're so upset. And it's like, well, no one's buying it.
I think
or in our world, something starts trending down a little bit, so the folks on marketing sales, the other side, they're like, okay, so we're going to 86 that one. Now create the next thing that's going to sell twice as much.
Right, exactly.
You're like, well, no, just sell that one. I put all my soul and love into that one. I got to try to.
And you end up taking pretty close to like a similar beer that got discontinued, but like we want that beer, but
just has a less cool name and less cool artwork or whatever.
Just like make it a little bit different.
Okay. The ones that I miss. Are there any Half Acre beers that you miss? Then we'll get the.
We're talking about Half Acre beers.
Yeah.
Overale.
Overale.
The stylist
really?
wonder. Yeah.
A lot of people love Gossamer, but for me, I'd have to say it was
Gin Pony.
No.
Oh.
No.
Gin
Close.
Pony. I didn't get that.
Akari Shogun.
Oh yeah.
Akari Shogun was like
fire.
that, like hot weather, limey, amazing can artwork.
Kind of the first Chicago beer to really pump Southern Hemisphere hops, right?
So good.
Chicago beer is Motueka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was Motueka. It's the first time I'd ever heard of that hop was that beer.
And the one when they would put the casks on, when they put some lime and lemon zest in there.
The other one, especially the first batch, but just generally, Vim. Like
Vim, dude.
the first,
batch one Vim is
batch one Vim. I think is the.
And as
the
I
best.
hear these names, I'm so jealous. Like we just, it's hard.
Yeah,
We're all
Your names
jealous
are hard.
We're all jealous of them. They're the coolest.
Akari Shogun, it's a cool beer. The art matched. It was.
The art is
so
insane. That was my
good.
visit
Yeah, that
yesterday
was
to
the
Half
coolest.
Acre was just reminding me how good you guys are with that, and the aesthetic in general of the brewery. It's a beautiful place. It's a comfortable place.
Yeah.
And
We had an Akari Shogun truck.
Yes, I remember. I used to love seeing it.
On a very technical level, for the way that label was printed on the can, it was the first time I had seen creative use of allowing the substrate of the can to shine through entirely. Where we were at Pipeworks when I was there still, we were like, oh,
Right.
whoa, we don't have to fill the whole thing. You can use a little bit of a negatives. Oh, they're geniuses.
So those are for my. So, Mr. Brynildson, any beers that you miss?
well, I
Past
mean,
Firestone
we
beers?
talked about Pale 31, and that
Yeah.
was that was a tragic moment when
Yeah.
that went away.
Yeah.
There was a formative beer in my life. That was when I was getting into beer. I was like, this is amazing. How are they even doing this?
Yeah, that was another time and place where less than a pound of hops per barrel and dry hop actually was impactful and seemed like. Right.
I think we're going back. At least
Yep.
I want to make those beers again. Maybe they only get sold at the tap room. But
I mean, we were talking about our Line 1 beer, our $5 pale ale that we have. The idea was it was supposed to be, Sierra Nevada pale ale all the time when we could get it, fresh or as fresh as we wanted it to be. And then there was a discussion about what beer should it be, when it's not. And I was like, well, it should be Pale 31, but that beer doesn't exist anymore. So,
Yeah.
but
So now
yeah.
it's going to be XPA, you're saying?
Yeah, so now it's going to be XPA. No.
Till it goes
Well,
on
now it was, but I guess not because they stopped brewing
Just
it.
fill the cooler.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Just let it last. We'll lager it.
Yeah, right.
So Pale
other than
31.
Pale
huh?
31, what do you...
I mean, do you remember just Firestone Lager?
Yeah,
Remember that beer?
yeah.
know if I-
I
It
do.
was it was the closest that we brewed to a Helles, so it was the brewer's favorite beer. So, yeah, I missed that one.
Interesting. I was
Those names don't sound nearly as cool as what we were just talking about.
yeah.
with
Kari,
Half Acre,
Shogun, and
though.
Vim.
Yeah. Pale 31
Lager?
for sure.
Lager was what? 2018 on either side, 17, 19?
Yeah, something about that.
18?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when Pivo went away, at least from here, it was
It's just sad. It was
crushing.
sad.
It was crushing. It was crushing.
Yeah.
So happy when it came back.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's amazing. It's great.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a joyous day.
Yeah. Where should we go from here, Mike? Unless anyone else
question.
has a. What do you want to say, Jude?
I don't want to give a shout out to another bottle shop in the Chicagoland area.
You're
but I want to give
allowed.
a shout
I'll
out to
allow
the
it.
beer temple. To the beer
No, that's
cellar.
right. Oh, yeah, I'll allow it.
Got to give a shout out to Ben Morgan in the beer
Oh, yeah.
cellar
Beat
and
that out,
Cole
Serge.
as well. We were checking we were checking dates on Pivo, so there would be a time when the east of Harlem Avenue, you were checking in dates too, like 3 days fresh, and in Glen Ellen it was like 10 days fresh or 11 days fresh. And we were like, oh, I saw it on Instagram that Beer Temple got like insanely fresh Pivo.
You're right.
We were comparing dates. And then we got into a competition of the summer of Pivo. So Ben was trying to bring in as much as he could, and then Cole was trying to buy as much as he could. So Cole got a 5-6-pack head start on me. So the Cole ended up in the summer of 2022, I think, with 12 6-packs of Pivo. And it was the summer of Pivo. I ended up at 6. So
Yep.
shout out to Glen Ellen and the fine folks at the beer cellar
Beep
for
that out
the
again, Serge.
summer of Pivo pills.
Yeah, there's a few beers.
It was so dope. They were so good. But there was a time when I learned that the distributors are different on both sides.
Sure, yeah.
Like Elmwood Park would get it one way, Chicago would get it one way, and Glen Ellen would get it another way. And I'm like, you see what Beer Temple just did? They're like, yeah, we just got to wait a couple weeks. Anyways, it
yeah,
was
what do
gnarly.
they call that thing again?
Nothing. It was just
No, there's a
different,
name
yeah.
for it. What do they call the thing? The pinwheel thing? It's called the conglomerate.
Beers were great.
No,
is what
I
I'm getting
forget.
at.
Yes,
It was
the
a
beers were
hunt for
great.
freshness.
We should.
and
I
how
don't want
much
to talk
we
about
could drink.
distribution. I certainly don't
Well,
want to talk about.
but I
it.
would like to talk about his Pivo for a little bit.
Cluster.
Yeah, let's talk about Pivo. I will say one thing about Pivo. I specifically remember where I was when I had it, and I was with John Laffler, and it was I can remember another beer that I had that was a very similar situation.
Zombie
I was
Dust.
with Zombie Dust, and I was also with John Laffler when I had that, and I was
We're
like,
good
whoa, they've kind of blown up. But he and I were at RIP Northdown Cafe.
Love that place.
And yeah, it was. Oh, it's a new Firestone Pills. All right, cool, fine. We had it, and we're like, what the fuck is this? What is this?
Yeah.
I had never had a Pilsner like it. I'd never had the Tipo Pills.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about it. The Italian Pills was yet to be a category, which maybe we can get into. And just so, yeah, so different. Did it seem when you were making it, Matt, that it was like I don't know, like a new, like you were breaking
Yeah,
out into a new style, or it was just like, yeah, this is just the Pills. You just called it a Pills.
I know the process, and I'm Matt. I'm sure you can echo this, or Jude. I mean, it's always this. You're always building. So we talked about XPA versus Pale 31, and we're just kind of building upon what we've already figured out and taking it to the next level. You got to remember, this is a good story now that we're sitting in Chicago. Do you remember Baderbrow?
Oh yeah,
The original Baderbrow?
yeah.
So way back when we were at Goose, we took on that brand, and that was I think it was all Saaz hopped Pilsner beer. But we were trying to replicate it at Goose, And I don't know, like my memory of Baderbrau, or when I had tasted it, I remembered it having this really serious Saaz aroma and flavor. But then when we brewed it to the recipe they gave us, we just couldn't get there. So we actually used a little bit of dry hop. And so that was the first time we decided we were going to put it. I think Jim Seaback and I were sitting tasting it after we brewed it, and we're like, man, we got to do something a little bit more. He's like, tell you what, buddy.
Yeah, right.
So you and Jim Seaback invented the Italian Pilsner.
Well, I'm just saying we dry hopped Baderbrau. I don't know that we told anybody. And then we went, whatever competition it was, GABF or whatever, and it did quite well. I also remember a moment when I tasted a German brewmaster on it. I'm like, hey, check out my Pilsner. He's like, this is not a Pilsner beer.
Yeah, right.
Because it has dry hop. So,
Right.
We'd already started playing around with it then. And when it came time for Pivo, I was going to pull that trick out of the bag again, only this time with Saphir, playing off of what Ago was doing. So, yeah, it didn't seem like that big of a change in terms of process or what we were trying to get to.
So you didn't think you were like inventing a whole new, incredibly
No, but I was pretty
beer
excited
style.
about Saphir, and I hadn't
Yeah.
tasted in any beers in the States yet. I had tasted it in some beers. It was a dry
What about
hop
that
Kolsch.
Beck's came out with Saphir.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
It was true, but also
not,
a joke.
not dry hop.
It
That was during a
joke.
whole
yeah,
kind
but
of-
they did mention they put Saphir hops on it.
Okay.
You remember
That
that,
was
when Beck was doing that?
A very
Gallagher?
cool era of German hops too, where
do.
there were some very cool low alpha German hops like the Callista / Grüngeist thing.
Yeah.
The Saphir stuff coming out there, which is like honestly the two hops we use more than anything else, like that.
Yeah, Grüngeist is amazing as well.
Yeah.
What's up, Matt?
Saphir is baller.
It is. Yeah.
And it was. I recall the Becks as well, because I think the
Yeah.
beer was called like Saphir.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember, like reading that it was like the key hop the key aroma hop in Pivo, and it's such an amazing hop. It's a beautiful hop, and it's so impactful.
Yeah.
And you almost have to be a little bit cautious with it because it can get a little over the top. But yeah, it obviously it makes Pivo just what Pivo
I think it's
is.
funny now. There's a little bit of a backlash, and I think I was talking to somebody who didn't realize what brewery I was from or whatever, and brought up Saphir and like I wouldn't use that fucking hop like everybody's using that in their pilsners now. And I'm like, oh, sweet.
You liked it before it was cool, so that's okay.
Were there when you were conceptualizing Pivo, were there other options, or was it because Saphir was so robust and perfect? You were like, we should build a beer around this.
I mean, I'm sure you've come to this point too where you're like, I want to make this beer, but it needs to be different than the beer I'm modeling it after. I want it, what's
Yeah.
its signature hook going to be?
Right.
And so I just had found that hop, and I was like, this would be the perfect place for it.
Were there versions of it when you were iterating on it that weren't Saphir, and it just didn't get there, or was it just like I nailed it? I am brew god.
No, not like
I'm just
that.
trying to back.
It was just like that.
But after tasting Tipo,
Yeah.
and knowing at the time it was all Tettnang.
You told him it was a Baderbrau clone, and you were upset with him.
No. But Anyway, so
All right.
Can you recall that moment? Can both of you recall that moment, the first time you smelled Saphir or rubbed Saphir, and kind of what was going through your minds, and was there like a reference point that you had, like that you went back to and said this is like this, or did it create an entirely different experience?
every time you go for hop selection or something in Germany or any hop growing region for that matter, people are always throwing stuff out in front of you. And usually it's the hop that they can't sell in the moment. They're like, you need to check this out.
Classic sales
So I had
guys,
rubbed and smelled Saphir and thought it was pretty interesting. Wasn't interested. And then I tasted a dry hopped Kolsch that a brewery, you maybe have heard of Braufaktum. Braufaktum in Germany. And so that was like one of the original craft producers that you could actually readily get in Germany. And they had made a Saphir dry hopped Kolsch. And I tasted that. I was like, oh, that was an aha moment for sure. Yeah.
Do you have any? Proud Papa moments when you see like how the Italian Pilsner has just become this? I don't know, kind of like how would you call it? It's like
staple, like a new classic.
yeah.
Chris hates all new beer styles, so when a beer style like sticks, like he's I'm joking.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, but I can't take any credit. It's Ago. Ago is the one doing it. I just happened to
You just amplified it.
A little bit, yeah.
Do
There
you
go.
do you agree with that, Mike
mean,
Shaw, when he says that?
As the origin point, I can't disagree, but I think
Sure.
for the proliferation of the idea of making a somewhat noble hop dry hopped lager in
Yeah.
America, you
All the
put that, you put that in
original-
everyone's head because
Yeah.
everyone had Pivo and they're like, we should make a worse version of this at our brewery.
Yeah, people were trying to recreate Pivo when they were making Italian pills.
Right.
I think.
And then everyone's like,
Es-
I love
especially
Pivo
the
so
early
much.
ones.
Same thing as gooseberries. You never had gooseberry.
Right.
You had.
Right, exactly. Except for Jude.
Jude loves gooseberries.
He's a real one. Yeah.
You know what? I never had lychee, right? So when people describe Citra as lychee, that was a mind-altering experience. And I was like, it's nothing like lychee. But then eventually maybe I've gotten to that area where I could associate it.
Right.
but
I don't think it is.
no, that's a fun
There's
one.
other
Yeah.
hops that kind of give me that vibe, but not that one. Okay.
Chris, I was just messing with you that I was saying you don't like new beer styles.
Yeah. If they're good enough,
to
I
clear
like
that
them.
up. Yeah.
XPAs are solid.
They don't
I
suck.
like,
I love
I like
them.
XPAs.
Yeah.
I don't know what makes them their own
Well,
style,
have
but
you
that's okay.
have you had Balter? So Balter XPA is pretty hot in Australia right now, and I don't necessarily think it's like the like at the core of the style, but they certainly have made it popular. And I think what they did was they've blended in some American hops and maybe some southern hemisphere hops, but still stayed true to that low alcohol, super hop forward, but crisp and dry, crushable beer.
When you try something that like is inspirational to you, like that Bolter you were talking about, or the Tipo or something, how quickly in your brain are you like, I think I got a version of this? Like the creativity starts going of like, I'd like to, not like you're trying to steal anything, but that you're like, the juices get going. You're like, oh, I'd like to cover this song. It's like that kind of like, is it immediate where you're like, oh, this is doing something special that I haven't had before? Or do you come back and you kind of process?
I feel like every time I travel away from the brewery, I have that experience.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me like, I got to get home and let's like riff on this.
And when you're like creating a recipe, like where do you start? Like, because we all kind of have the place where like we build this hop bill or we build this malt profile, and then we.
I don't know. I think
build
we've all been doing
scaffolding
this
around
long
it.
enough that you.
Does it all
you're
walk
like,
in Harry Potter?
I know
style,
how
fully
I do
formed?
that. I don't know how they did it. I know how I would do it. So, yeah. I don't.
So how do you do it? As I'm asking, like, how do you do it? Like, what do you start with?
That was a good Jamie Bogner question. It was just like you honed in on it, and then you went further, and you said, no, clarify.
If he tells you, then everyone's going to make beer as well as
Good
he
luck.
does.
Shout out to you, Jamie, if you're listening.
Is it process stuff? Is it ingredient
Since I live
driven?
more in a production brewing world, I can't just start from scratch and, like, oh, I'm going to try a different yeast and a different malt. I'm going to put this together in a whole different way. I always start with the building blocks that I already know that we use. And I talked about in our wheelhouse, it's like pale ale. We have the yeast that works really well in the style. We've got the raw malt base, so I already know how that works. And then hops. So I don't know. I guess I'm not really answering your question, but I feel like I'd start with these
Seems too natural. To me.
basic building blocks that I already know and add that new thing I just tasted or that new thing I think I know how it's done.
Yeah. Just ask Barry Bonds how he hits home runs. He's like, his swing good.
Matt Gallagher, can I ask you a question? Is there a beer that you had tried at some point in your beer drinking history that set off like the protons and the neutrons and the electrons in your brain, and led you to the next place?
You gotta give him the mic back.
Yeah, I mean, all the time. But the first one that comes to mind, like Alpine Duet,
Yeah.
Happy Birthday, like those beers, like that. The CBC, the last time I was in San Diego, I think maybe 2012, 13. That was one of the most inspirational beer trips for me. Like we had a minivan. It was me, Raj, Gabriel, and Matt Young. The core half acre crew, just bombing around San Diego County in a minivan.
I mean,
and
maybe
just
the
like-
best time for IPA
And everything was
like
infinite,
ever. Like and to be in San Diego like right around those years.
Yeah, that
Just
draft
like,
box that they
my
built
gosh.
for the CBC, I think this was the second time they had used it because I wasn't there the last like two or
At the
three
Town
years
and Country,
before. Yeah,
which was like the perfect
Yeah.
venue for it.
The Town and Country ruled, and it's just like, we bombed out to Alpine. And we were like, we need to go to this place.
Right.
The beers were just spectacular and just totally mind blowing. It like totally just gets the juices flowing. So,
And same question for you. How do you start building something like that?
well, I came back, and that's when we brewed Vallejo. That was just like, okay, Nelson, like that hop
Right.
rules. Like as dry as it can be, as bitter as it can be, and you don't really need to do much else.
Right.
So yeah, but like Vallejo was born out of that trip, 100%, and it was just like, yeah, it just clicked for
Right.
us. And it's stuff like that's the interesting. Like Half Acre actually sells fairly okay in California because we're so inspired by really that like the California beers for us are very inspirational. You say West Coast, but I love Pacific Northwest. That's where all the hops are grown. Beautiful beers, beautiful people, beautiful breweries. But for us, it's just that
SoCal.
that California, but not even
Yeah.
SoCal, just that California vibe. Union Jack, was just
Sure.
like CBC in 2010 was like getting exposed to Union Jack and just like totally blowing my mind. That combination of English and American is something that is very influential to like up till now to me is like that to me that's what speaks to me is that combination of the English brewing history that goes way back and then like twisting it with American ingredients and American philosophies of like more
Yeah. And then it's so fun when you go to like a place like the Colonel, who's taking these Anglo styles that have been Americanized, and now they're like re-Anglicizing them. How fun is that? Because their beers they're not classic British. They're not U.S. craft.
Yeah.
They're their own little thing, which is so fun and so cool to see, especially when it's done as well as they do it there.
Colonel table beer. Like I
Oh
had
my
I had a
gosh.
bottle of that on my desk. I still have it. I don't have a desk anymore,
Yeah.
but I still have the bottle.
Yeah, the desk can go, the bottle stays. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that sound. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So that sounded very much like that trip to Southern California and Vallejo, kind of coming from that, was very much like a brewer-driven beer. And Tom Beckman from Goldfinger is here or was here, and he came on. It was
nice placement. Love it.
sorry, not what?
I was just giving out.
Yeah.
Doing the
But he was on,
highlight your
and
boy.
he was very much
It was a
talking about
star-studded
like,
cast tonight.
Yeah,
It was
right.
really pretty sweet.
Somebody must have been here to bring him out. Yeah, they wanted to watch the guy, the
Jude
bar
was
back.
here.
There was a celebrity bar back. Yeah.
Calibrates. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he came on and was talking a lot about marketing versus sales-driven beers.
Versus brewer driven.
Yeah, sorry. Sales-driven versus brewer-driven. And I personally think that there's probably a lot of validity and good things that can come from both. Now, that trip seems like it was very much like a brewer's-driven beer, and I'm sure that, the four of you would all love to have only, like, brewer-driven beers. But I'm just curious to hear, like, when you feel that when the sales force can really help kind of inform you as to, how to make a successful beer that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Because I know it's brewers, I do think, like to shit on the sales team for being like, make me something else, but just name it something worse or whatever it was.
That's the marketing team.
Sorry, that's the marketing. But like, I do
Sales
think
guys are great.
they're out there in the trenches, and I think there is some validity to what they bring. So I'm curious just to like I think healthy push and pull of it, and like where you feel that where a good resting place for that to be is. It's just something I've thought about, and when you said that about your trip, it came to mind. So anything you want to say about that, Gallagher?
It's crucial. It's and as Half Acre has grown, it's become so important, and we don't do it well. Like we're constantly working on it, and it's
Don't
crazy.
do what well?
Like that
The balance of it.
the push and pull, because it's like we all know each other, we love each other, we're super friends, but it's like a language barrier. I don't understand it. It's like Half Acre. Honestly, I got out of the way. I was like, I need to remove myself because I'm so brewer forward. I'm just like totally just like in my own head, and like it's really
That's
hard.
important too, I would think, right? I mean, you have to.
Yeah. But it's important to.
A wild
Tater.
tater.
Oh, that's
here.
Tater.
It's a wild tater out there.
we got Wild Tater. That's great. But it's crucial as a company matures, but it depends the scale of your business. You know, it's like if you're depending on your volume, you know, you could like if you're super small, you could do whatever you want. You could brew Pilsner 4 times a year in Napa Valley, and you know,
Talking about Nick.
and that works. But if you want to sell beer at a certain scale, you know, you need to be cognizant of that, and it's super important. And I think I'm not very good at it, but I understand the importance. But we struggle, and it's mostly a language thing. It's like it's just like a communication thing of like trying to understand both sides of like, okay, what are you looking for, and then understanding from the brewer side, like how do we achieve this? And Half Acre's gotten really good at it when I got out of it, so to speak.
Okay. How about you, Matt Brynildson?
Well, I just feel like maybe it's when a brewery is young, or maybe it was the time and place that our brewery started. There was a lot of white space, and you know, you looked at the portfolio of, you know, we've got light beers on this end, big beers, and there's all sorts of space in between. And it felt like every time we as brewers came to the table, the sales and marketing team would be like, oh yeah, that fits right in here, boom, we got it, we'll take it. And then you wake up one day and your portfolio's pretty filled out, and now you're either trying to jam things in between, or there's a lot of opinion about which end of the portfolio you should be focusing on, and it just becomes a little bit more difficult.
Sure.
And especially, and then if the shelves get all jammed up and you're trying to create the new thing, but there really isn't a new thing in beer. It's all been done, and now you're making shit up just to try to paint between the lines or outside of the lines, whatever that is.
There are a million ideas. There are only so many good ideas.
Well, also, like, you know, I'm sure the brewers want to make, you know, whatever, a classic black country Midlands mild, and the sales team's like, there's just no way this is ever going to sell, and then the sales team is like, we got to brew one of these, and you guys are like, there's just no way that's not going to work. Like, that's not what this brewery can do. So I'm sure it's probably an art to trying to figure out where, you know. Yeah,
probably a lot of trust too, to trust the sales and marketing people that they're not just like, let's jump on all these trends and run them out to keep the numbers going.
We need Italian pills. We need a Southern Hemisphere pale ale,
or like we need a smoothie seltzer. Like,
no,
right?
I'm joking. Yeah.
Yeah, right. All the disgusting things, the extra pale ale from the
exactly.
Southern Hemisphere hops.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of trust and there has to be a lot of respect, even if you're butting heads, to make it work.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so powerful when all that comes together and it clicks. It's super powerful.
Yeah,
it's like things are just. It's just like a snowball. It just keeps going because it's like everyone's excited about it, and it's really about like we talk about that at Half Acre, like capturing the excitement. It's like we always say, like, okay, if this idea is you know, super energetic internally,
right?
Like, trust that, like that's going to be good. If people inside, like across the company, if they're stoked about it, then we're on the right path.
Right.
And when that clicks, I mean, I'm thinking about 805 myself. It's just like 805 rules to me. It's like incredible. It's awesome. And to me, it's that clicking of like, I don't know, it just all works. And then you get something like that can just like propel, and just it's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and it needs both, right?
Yeah,
a
it
beer,
needs- it needs
especially a
both.
beer like 805, it needs both.
100%.
Right.
It needs both
Needs
for sure.
technical expertise, and it needs, it needs a clear sales and marketing vision for it. And I feel like I see, people drop off, beers all the time here, big breweries, small breweries, and I feel like I see examples of both. I feel like, oh, this is a brewer beer that, they're doing someone lip service, like, okay, we'll make this beer that you want. And then there's other times where it's like, okay, the brewer was told they had to make this, and that's why they're making it. At least that's what the story I tell. But when
never
they
be
come
quite as
together,
good when you-
it's like, oh, that's great.
It's never quite as good if either side is begrudgingly doing
Right.
something there, right?
Right.
Yeah. As you
So if we take a break, does everyone promise to fill up their glass and come back in a timely manner? A few minutes, like 5 minutes, literally? Can we all agree to do
Yeah.
that? Sure. Okay. All right. So why don't we come back in 5 minutes, and we'll finish this off with the gotcha questions. I can't wait.
Hey.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, along with your other host, Mike Shalau, and I'm with our guests, Jude
De La
LaRose,
Rosa.
De La Rosa, Matt Brynildson of Firestone Walker, and Matt Gallagher of Half Acre. Jude, you're from Hop Butcher. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Sorry, thank you. Hop Butcher for the World.
Hop Butcher for the World. Sorry.
LLC.
Yes.
Is that the full name
We're
of
not
your
doing.
LLC?
Yeah. From now on, we're only gonna.
Full name of our brewery is Hop
Introduce-
Butcher for the World.
Is that
We're
your
not
LLC?
doing business
Well, I mean, I can
as. It's
register,
only legal
yeah.
entity names from
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
on.
right.
So yeah, from
His was all caps with the slash in it, LLC.
exactly.
All
At least
depends
it's
on how
not
you're
like,
taxed.
Depends on which government body accepts and doesn't accept a slash in the name. Anyway,
So-
that's what the people are here for.
Yes. So now we've refilled our glasses. So then I've got this is a question that Mike, Jude, and I all prepared for Mr. Brynildson, but it's going to be for both of you because it works. All right. This is a conceptual question, so I need you to,
Lock in.
Yeah, lock in and just imagine. Okay.
Do your best podcasting.
Okay. Here's the scenario. Someone, a brewer, has to brew something at your brewery that is going to be, I don't know, somehow economically meaningful. Like there's going to be consequences for this beer. And here's the scenario, right? Meaning it's important. You've got two fish bowls. One is with every beer style that there is in it. And I'm going untapped beer styles, not just BJCP. So like every style of beer there possibly
That is
could
emphatically
be.
loving
Right.
Untapped.
The other
Which,
fish
Matt? I
bowl
don't know.
has the names of 4 brewers in it. That you have to pick one randomly, one random style.
I'm gonna get shot down in cold blood when I walk out of this place.
I didn't hear it. Okay. No. Yeah.
I didn't say which, Matt.
No, I know. I'm not saying. That's okay. So now that the listeners have had jokes cracked in the middle of the scenario,
Sorry.
I'll start over. Okay.
You know what podcast you're on?
So one, every beer style. The second has 4 brewers' names in it. You can choose which 4 brewers are in there, and then you're gonna have to randomly pick from one of each. So it's a random style, and then who is going to brew it? Which 4?
Oh, so you're limiting it to who it could be.
Yeah. So which 4 brewers would you want? Which would you choose? Which 4 brewers' names would you put in there
Wait,
to
is
brew
this
any
one of
style?
there's 4, and you have to pick one of the 4?
Yeah, you helped me design this question.
Seems different
Yeah,
than what we
it's
talked
not.
about.
It's not.
I was also confused in the group.
In
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world,
This was,
any
Yeah.
brewer in the world.
4
Any
brewers
brewer-
that you think could execute
Any style. Given
that-
to them at random. Like you have to do this. Right. Like here you pick but you can't say what the style is. You have to pick it from random. Yeah. Which 4 brewers would you choose? It could be in the world. Yeah.
I'm going to throw one out there. Is this going to go back and forth? And I don't
No,
I
you
don't
have to
pick
do all 4.
I
No,
gotta
you
pick
have to do all 4 exactly. You can be one of them if you want.
Wait, so can I?
You can overlap,
Can I
too.
continue to clarify this?
Yeah.
So this is
if you can.
this
While
is
he's thinking,
it's-
you'll give him some time to
This
think.
is 4 people that you believe could brew all the styles you're
Anyone.
thinking of?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like
Basically,
you trust them.
you-
No,
to
they
brew
have to be able to
anyone.
brew all the styles
No,
you're talking about.
just
No?
one.
Okay.
You'd give them the keys to the kingdom
Right.
of Firestone Walker or Half Acre
Right.
to.
And then it's like a
trust
bingo
them.
ball, and instead of a number, you pick out a beer style. That's what you got to brew, that one style. But you don't know what it's going to be. So they have to be ready to brew pretty much anything, right? And execute it very well. Who would you choose, Matt? Matt Brynildson.
Number 1, and I'm not going to pronounce his last name right, but it's
Shalau.
Dirk Naut at De Proof.
Oh,
And if
right.
you know this brewery, he's essentially set it up to be the ultimate, most flexible brewery in the world to do any style. And the reason why he came to mind is he showed up at the Mikkeller Festival in Copenhagen, and the guys from Omnipolo were walking him around, and they dropped by our booth to taste a beer. And of course, I immediately start sweating because this guy's like wanting to taste one of my beers. And then they left him with me for like 15 minutes to just chat it up. Yeah, he's one of those guys who I just, ultimate respect. And I'm
yeah.
pretty sure in the world of beer, he's the one person who could brew any style, period.
Mm-hmm.
He'll figure it out.
Cool.
All right. That's one. That's a great answer. Who else? You got 3 more.
Yeah, so and then this one I'm going to be riffing a little bit. I got to think. Evan Price, Green Cheek. I got to say it. Like, whatever he puts his mind to, he nails. And, he even gets bored with beer every once in a while and starts doing seltzer and wine, and somehow does it better than everybody else, with a smile on his face, and very light-footed when it comes to just kind of cranking out just anything he wants when he wants. So, yeah, he's a young wizard, but definitely a wizard. There's no doubt about it.
Super annoying how good he is at everything.
Great to hear.
How about you, Matt Gallagher? You got a couple?
This is tough. So basically, we're picking like brewers that are just super versatile. That's the
Who
question.
you would trust to brew
yeah.
something for you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
So-
kind of like,
Yeah.
the keys. They get the keys to the brewery or their brewery in your name. However you want to do it. That part's
Yeah.
not as important.
I probably kind of have a bit of a smaller, I don't know the right term for it, but there's so many incredible brewers that I don't know, and I don't know what they're doing. So I just kind of want to preface this with like,
Sure.
this is just like people that maybe I know.
This is
They,
like the,
they
the
all
Oscar.
listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
They'll be
I
very
have met
upset if you
before.
don't mention them.
But I don't know.
Gallagher.
Yeah, it's a super tough question now that I understand what it is. But I would trust Sean Hill 100% because he cares to a level that is very intense. And if he sets his mind to doing something, he will chase down every blind alley to make sure that he gets it to where he wants to get it. And he does a lot of different kinds of beer.
Yeah.
Between lagers, lager beer to, all kinds of hoppy beers to all kinds of barrel aging, whether it's, mixed fermentation barrel aging versus spirit barrel aging. So he's just like super.
Saison, obviously, as well.
Yeah. He's intense.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I would trust him completely to.
Yeah. So give me one more, then we'll go back to Matt Brynildson for the final 2.
Okay, cool. Well, then I'll just like throw quick
By the way, we were talking about this, and that was one Chris. We were talking about things internally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Sean Hill
Thanks.
was one that Chris brought up, is what you're saying.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like a super versatile brewer that I'm super good friends with, David Bartosh from Wiseacre. He's like, he has a way of like just like picking a style and not really being, I don't know. He's very versatile. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. They make a lot of different beers down at Wiseacre.
Tiny Bomb is a jam.
And Tiny Bomb is rad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's great.
They make a lot. Like you go down there, I'm like, you're making this beer? I'm like, what is what's going on?
Yeah.
He's like kind of like a Swiss Army brewer in terms of the styles that he will go after. So
That's great.
And he's just super fun to hang out with.
Awesome.
So I would mostly just pick him so I can hang out.
That's fair. You can
That's a
your
great
answers
angle,
can be
to be
for any
honest.
it can be for any reason.
Just want to chill with this. guy.
Absolutely. Do you have two more ready, Matt Brynildson?
Well, I have to mention Dustin Krull and Ollie Razi on my team, and I'll kind of put them together into one.
Sure.
Because, I would not be anywhere near where I am today without those guys. And there are some other team members that also, play into that on our team, but those two have been with me over 20 years.
Wow.
And so anything that has my name on it, but has Firestone's name on it, they've made happen. They've made reality. And we're hardwired so well together that we can have a conversation about something or just taste a beer. That's the part I like. Like, I can bring, just got home from Copenhagen. You got to taste this thing. And after they're done rolling their eyes at me and they're like, all right, yeah, I know that. We can do that. And we have a conversation and, it becomes a reality. So I have to mention these guys.
That's awesome. Great.
Perfect.
And your last one.
Since I've been in the Duvel world and people don't talk about Hedwig Naven enough, and Dmitry Stallings is his quality manager, if you look at the broad range of beers that Duvel group does and how well they travel around the planet. So it's not just execution of a style, but it's also like, how do you make that beer essentially bulletproof in a world that doesn't have cold chain. And it's pretty amazing to get a peek behind the curtain there and just to see how beer is made in a 150-year-old brewery that's done everything from, old Brune to modern IPA and everything in between.
And who is the brewer?
Hedwig Naven is the up until very recently the brewmaster of Duvel Morgat.
Oh, okay.
And Dmitry Stalin is the quality manager, kind of, working hand in hand with him, kind of like the Ollie Razi, Dustin Krull, and my organization, the awesome duo that's making that happen. Hedwig recently handed the reins to Sam DeBelder, a young brewmaster who has been learning under and mentoring under Hedwig, who is just, amazingly talented as well. So I, recently had some pretty serious exposure to that team and just walked away from it kind of still in awe of what they can do.
Awesome. Love it.
Very cool.
Yeah. Great. I love that I only know one person on his list. That's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, Gallagher, you've had some time. We got two more names. They're going into the fishbowl.
No, I'm doing two more.
You're doing two more. Yeah.
All right, well, I got one prepped.
All right, good.
Perfect. That's how we do the show. Let's
exactly.
Ben Edmonds from Breakside.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So glad you mentioned Ben.
Yeah, he just won the Russell Shearer Award, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the Russell Shearer Award?
It's the Brewers Association Award for Innovation in Brewing. Matt can speak more about it, but I get super passionate when people I know win that award, because it's as when you're younger, you just see these names and they're legends, and then when you get to see your I wouldn't call Ben a peer of mine because he won the award. He's incredible, but it's oh, I know him. We've hung out. We've had beers together. I'm I just get super excited about it, but. Anyway, he's just a brewer who's just super technical, but also super soulful. And can tackle a wide range of styles and do them both judged well and also just taste well, because it's those are always the same thing, a beer that is judged well always tastes well, but anyway, yeah.
He brews with incredible soul.
Yeah.
And you just know if Ben's going to do it, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and precision.
Yeah.
He can do it.
And again, with a smile on his face, you make it look easy. It drives me nuts.
I don't know Ben personally, but I know anytime that Craft Beer and Brewing has a podcast that's focused on a beer style and they're inviting like questions from a brewer, he's got 5 that he submits.
Yeah.
And he asks all the brewers, whether it's West Coast beer, hazy IPA, lager beer. Ben's got questions for everybody on the panel.
That's awesome. You got one more, Matt.
I got one more. I mean, I'm just going to toss it to Jim Seebeck.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned Jim. He was gonna. Yeah, he was on my short list too.
Yeah, Jim rules. And I'll tell you what, him
Revolution.
from Revolution Brewing.
But also worked at Firestone.
Yes.
Firestone, Three Floyds, Goose Island.
The
Him and his wife
calmest
Dawn.
soul in the world, too.
They were at our house over the winter, and it really clicked to me. Like, Jim is just like, we're hanging out for a couple of hours, and he's just talking, just being Jim. And it just clicked to me there's key moments in both Chicago beer history, but also, like, global beer history. Like, Jim was there.
Yeah.
Jim was making these beers.
The Forrest Gump of beers. in
That
the
were just
area.
like,
Seriously.
I'm like, oh my God. Like, I knew this, but
Wait, you
like,
made Alpha King and you made Pale 31 and you did Anti-Hero?
hearing
Yes.
it all at once,
Right.
it's
Yes.
just like, it was overwhelming.
And
I
he's
was
just
like,
saying, like, I was brewing and then
I'll
we
tell
made this
you what,
iconic
buddy.
thing. Yeah.
The only way for more Saphir aromatics is more Saphir.
That's science, though. Like,
but back to the original question was who you would trust to make any beer, and I would put that to Jim any day of the week, and again, you're going to get a world-class beer. And he just has this way of breaking down beer and the styles and the elements and, makes it happen. Again, makes it a reality.
yeah. It's for someone who's been in it for so long. We recently just brewed with him, and I was talking about like our janky ways that we produce saison, and he's like, "That's actually really interesting. We should use some of that when we make our version of it." And like, I was like, I don't know. You're right. Your ways are probably better than mine.
He also his brain is really sticky. He doesn't forget anything. He's really good at compartmentalizing. It's like he's a bit of an encyclopedia of beer. He reminds me of things that we did at Goose that I've forgotten long ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, okay.
Wow.
I'm probably going to mess this up, but he taught me about Colt 45, but it was a way to brew high gravity beer and liquor it down. And he taught me all about that. And that was so cool. But I think there was
Because he invented that too.
No, not the malt liquor.
She was wearing diapers.
obviously,
in the brewer
everyone
house.
knows
Like, what do you guys think
Billy
about high
D.
gravity brewing?
Billy D invented that beer. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Works
Oh,
every
man.
time.
Jim, I feel, has a way of connecting the raw ingredients to what you're overlooking all the time, and realize that there's an appreciation around every corner for all of the things. And he's also the person that I feel taught me how to drink beer, teaches me how to drink beer, which is like when you drink a beer, you drink it. Like, you just, but incredibly smart. And in his ability, I feel, to connect with all across all generations too. The first time we brewed, we are nobodies. We're still nobodies, and we were so stoked to brew with Rev. And he just took us in and just showed us the whole thing, and his ability to connect with everybody was incredibly amazing. I went back to my wife. I'm like, just met my dad in a different way. And then my dad came over for the Rev Tap Takeover, and they all connected on like the east side of Chicago and St. Francis de Sales and all the things,
Calumet City, baby.
I think we have to talk about lacing.
Oh,
We owe it.
yeah.
We owe it to Stevie Hamburg. We owe it to Stevie Hamburg a little bit. So we've been on a bit of a mission lately.
We're on a crusade of sorts.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
no children involved.
Yeah,
It's
no.
not like the original ones.
No, but it's more than a mission. It is truly a crusade.
It's a
I think
calling,
it's
yeah.
So, I don't know if it's just in my mind, but I feel like lacing isn't what it once was, perhaps. So I want to know What?
SPA's looking okay though.
I mean, they're looking. I mean, this is a little tepid.
Anyway.
Man. I don't know.
we've been seeing.
That looks good. But I'm talking 10 out of 10. Every sip line perfect. That's what I want. That's my goal.
How do we develop great
Yeah.
foam?
What goes
how do we
into it?
sustain great
Yeah.
foam, and how do we get it to cling to the side?
Right.
Why?
And I think a lot of it happens at the bar side, personally.
Sure.
But I want to hear what everyone here's thoughts are on how do you get, and I'm talking delineation between every sip and then that perfect Belgian lacing in between every sip. You know, I want to see like lattice in between.
layers, yeah.
Exactly. So, thoughts on it, and if you have any advice, you know, we're putting together. I mean, we're not gonna.
We're trying to solve this thing.
We're not gonna stop until every beer that I ever pour here. I mean, look at this beer.
It's in your
I'm
own bar,
embarrassed.
too.
What beer is this? What is this?
That's
What-
Terrace Bulba,
Terrace
man.
Bulba? No, I knew it was
That's
that.
gotta be your fault. And mine's looking all right.
like you
Maybe,
didn't
maybe you're just
clean
bad
your
at
glass.
drinking
Must be
it.
the glass. Maybe that I'm bad at drinking it. It's true.
I think I cleaned those glasses that are showing lacing.
Yeah, that's right.
That's probably
Yeah,
what it was.
Absolutely, you did.
For sure.
I got a theory. I think it's the soap.
Well, look, this one probably has soap in it, right?
Well, I don't think it
Soap
has
wasn't,
soap
wasn't
in it, but-
rinsed enough.
There's anti-foaming agents and a lot of soaps used to clean stuff. Anyway, you know a lot more than I do, Mr. Brynildson.
You know
what do
I-
you think's
I would-
happening?
I
with,
would bring Dimitri from Duval onto the show. I think he'd put on a clinic and could tell you way more than I could.
Do you have his like email that we can get him on?
But what do they do? Like, how do they have any that
Well,
you're
I mean,
aware
first
of?
of all, I think that the
glassware, like how do they prep their glassware?
it's so much more important in Europe, especially in Belgium, is that presentation, and
Yeah.
that is as important to the quality of the beer and the finish as anything else. Clarity is probably even secondary to that. So they're already in communication with the maltsters on the protein levels with the Kolbach number. They're already picking the malt specific to foam and how that's going to work.
That's their number one.
There's a number of their tools in the toolbox, whether you're using downstream hop products or hops in general, how you use your hops and the hops that you choose. Tetra hop is one of these tools that I think American brewers are starting to pick up on a little bit more, but yeah. And then how we pour in presentation. I mean, the way you were pouring those Trailing West pills today,
like kind of the two-step,
yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah, the foam on those beers was looking absolutely amazing. So there you have an under-modified malt, really clean glass, two-step pour, boom.
Okay. So I tend to think it's also a lot of the detergents and how do you do it? Yeah, do you do a wet? Do you is it a dry glass you pour it into, or is it into a rinsed glass that you pour it into? Does any of that stuff matter?
Well, Steve Hamburg was also saying that there's only certain uses or instances where you should use a glass rinser, right?
I don't know. He was talking about some guys in the UK who they pour into a dry glass, and that's just how they do it. So they're also doing cask beer, which I think tends to lace exceptionally well, I think, when you can get that foam in there, that really kind of tight, sticky foam. So I don't know. It's
This is our.
it's a calling. I didn't want it, but it was, it chose me. I didn't choose
right.
it. The really important things in life,
That's right.
how to get lacing to stick to a glass,
The big picture stuff.
What's up, Matt?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a beautifully laced beer glass, like you said, you want every sip, you
Yeah.
want to see every step,
Yep.
and you want
good.
to see the lace between. It's incredible. It's one of the things that I think, like the traditional beer, it's just one of those things that makes our industry good. I'm losing the words.
Yes.
But I'm a big fan.
Well, once we decode it, we will disseminate the knowledge everywhere, so everyone can know. I promise.
Seriously,
We're not
if you have
gonna keep
ideas
it-
out there, send them to us.
I
Yeah,
think
we've
you
been
need-
getting some.
You
We
need
just
the
didn't have
Pope of
time to read
Foam
'em.
on here. You need
Yes.
to-
Yeah.
Charlie Bamforth.
The Pope of Foam. I love it.
Wow.
He's like, that's like the czar of the telestrator. Remember? Yeah, Mike Fratello, the czar of the telestrator.
The Pope of Foam.
The Pope of
Bamforth
Foam.
on here. What have we been doing?
We need to get Mike Fratello and
Same
Charlie
same
Bamforth on here.
episode.
Yeah, he could telestrate the phone.
Crossover episode.
Exactly. Imagine that. Yeah, I think you're right. We do need to do that because, look, I mean, this is a great beer, but it's just something's wrong. Something's wrong with the presentation in
mine.
mine.
Everyone else has got
Can't
some
even
lacing
can't
going
even
on
get
there.
mine to foam up. Yeah. So
That's on
we're,
you.
we're gonna fix it. It's not on me.
It's your bar.
True, it is on me. You're right. It is. Okay, accepted.
Sorry.
All right. Well, that's something I'm just going to be asking people just to kind of collect as much information as I can, and we're going to get it. You know, that 10 out of
We're
10
gonna
lacing.
solve this.
Yeah, we have to be able to. I've thought of so much about do old glasses that might have micro etchings in it. But it's like, well, then you would have kind of nucleation, so it would kind of look dirty as you pour it, so you wouldn't think that would do it. But I don't know. It's all things I'm going to try.
Okay, are we too clean now?
Right. Is it too clean?
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
Of course.
Can I get a quick hot take? Don't think about it much. Nucleated etching in the bottom of the glass.
Yeah.
How do we feel about it?
I think it looks cool. I'm not sure if it actually helps with head retention. That's my hot take.
I have no opinion. That's my hot take. Is I've never thought about it once in my
Oh,
time.
I've thought about it quite a bit. See, Gallagher's thinking a lot about glassware right now. For whatever reason, I don't
wonder
know if he's
why.
getting ready to open up a tap room or
We're gonna
something
come
like
back
that.
on the show and talk about it.
Oh, then I have another here. Swing it back over because I have some advice. If you are going to go nucleated, I think I used to have some of these that had a little bit of nucleation.
He's pulling up a
Wasn't
Munich
even
glass.
worth it. You have to get
Flat bottom.
literally the most nucleated thing you can get. I think on some of these ones, I just have a swirl
He's pointing at
as
pint
much
glasses.
as possible. So if you're going to go all the way. That's another hot
Okay.
take.
So you're saying if you go a little bit of the way, it doesn't really do much.
No, and
But-
sometimes
but does it look cool?
it depends. I think the more the better. These swirly ones, it almost looks like you get a vortex going on.
Ah, I got you.
Those
I
are
got
super
you.
cool.
Okay.
The other thing is the quality of the nucleation varies glass to glass. Sometimes it just wasn't etched in as well or something. So you'll have variation. I've got a lot of hot takes on this. None of this is scientifically
you had
proven.
no idea.
All right.
You had
Dude.
no idea you were asking the perfect
Nucleation.
person.
Nucleation is the 300 level class after
Yes.
lacing.
Yeah, it's like a cardinal. The cardinal of foam teaches that
Okay.
one. You don't.
I didn't realize the
is great.
hierarchy.
Yeah.
I feel we have to give a shout out to Holmes out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, who holds in the second week of June a festival called Nucleate. So shout out Holmes.
It's an etching
Yes.
festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris and Mike are on to something. I think we've all seen varying examples of beers that have lacing and don't have lacing. I feel this is an ongoing conversation that we
Yeah.
still have to fit.
We're going to solve it
or
on the
if
show
there
at
is a
some point.
I
might
might
take
have
10
I
years.
might have a text thread group devoted to it that's called the Lacing Lads. Where we just figure out what's going on.
Now I feel that.
Listeners of this
You are left
podcast
out.
within our brewery have texted each other pictures of beers they're drinking saying lacing, no lacing.
Right.
So
I mean, it's.
it
Now
is-
you got to
it's a
tell us
real
the
thing.
soap
Yeah.
you use. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you have any thoughts on nucleation in glassware, Matt? Matt Brynildson?
Yeah, we do it in ours. The Pivo glasses are all etched, and it works. And I think everything you said.
Yeah.
Checks out.
There you go. That's
All
what I
right.
think of it.
What a great show we had.
Yes. We can go around final thoughts for anyone, for any of our guests. We'll also do the final thoughts in order of seniority, reverse seniority.
Okay.
So
Let's
final
go.
thoughts, Mr. Gallagher.
It's just super excited to see how the sausage is made here at the podcast.
Yeah.
Pristinely and purely. Don't
pristine.
Just
tell
like
the-
sausage.
Don't tell the FDA.
Yeah.
Yeah. First word that comes to
Or the
mind.
PD, the podcasting.
Pristine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Thank
no, no final thoughts. Just want to thank you all for having me, and super excited to be on the show.
Thanks for coming on, man. Nope. You're last, my friend. Mr. Brynildson.
Well, it was a pleasure to be with you, and we touched a lot of points. That was awesome. And the whole reason I'm here is because of this collaboration with Half Acre. So, Matt, thank you so much for saving me here and taking up at least a nice chunk of the air time so that I didn't have to talk
all those gotcha questions we had set up for you.
Yeah, this is
Awesome.
great, guys. No, this is awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on. All right, Jude, round it out, man. Any final thoughts?
Great group to be with, all around the board. Great answers, great questions, great ambience. The artwork is really lending a vibe.
It's a vibe.
Right,
For
it
sure.
is a vibe. Yeah, this is it switches up, but I'm feeling who's in here right now.
Love it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
May in Chicago, and it's getting even warmer.
Yes.
And we're going to enter the summer, which is the greatest beer drinking season around here. So can't
Absolutely.
wait.
All right, Mike, anything for you?
Say thank you so much for coming on, all three of you, and for putting up with myself and Chris.
And certainly for me, while I'm washing glassware with my helper from my imported helper from Firestone. So thanks
Shout out to
everybody.
Scott.
My
Here comes
hands-
Scott.
Absolutely.
Scott Hot
My
Takes.
hands are still pruny.
Scotty
Just
Hot
wanna say
Takes.
that.
Throw us
All
some
right,
hot
you're
takes.
being a little dramatic now. It's 2 hours ago. Okay. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said.